Hey everybody, Yankee here. You know, the United States is a dangerous place. Just simply by living here, you're likely to be the victim of a violent crime. At least, that's what a lot of people like to pretend. It's not actually true. America is actually a very safe place. If you've ever been to some place that's actually like that, you'd know the difference, but a lot of people have never been there. Never been anywhere where they're actually in danger. So they like to pretend that America is so dangerous when it really isn't. Now, unfortunately, both sides of the gun argument love to pretend America is very dangerous. Because if you're on the pro-gun argument side, you can say, well, it's so dangerous, that's why you got to have a gun. In case you are the victim of a violent crime, you have to be armed and be prepared. And the other side likes to pretend that it's the gun's fault. That this is a violent country with a lot of dangers, and it's because there's so many guns. So both sides have a vested interest in pretending this country is really dangerous when it isn't. Go spend some time in Haiti or Jamaica outside the resorts, and let me know if you think America's dangerous. In fact, in this country, it's really easy to reduce your chances of ever being the direct victim of a violent crime. And it's simple. There's 3 things you can do that drastically reduce your chances. I mean, like cut it by the majority. And none of these things is owning a gun. Now, owning a gun is a good idea, and owning a gun greatly increases your chances of surviving if you're the victim of a violent act, but doesn't really reduce the chances of that act being put upon you, so to say. So, there's 3 things you can do, and I'm going to go over them here today, that would greatly make you safer in this country. The first of which is, don't join a gang. If you're not a gang member, the chances that, 8 armed people with AKs raid your home is not very likely, because usually that's gang-related activity. The chances of you getting gunned down on the street by a drive-by, very unlikely, especially that you would be the target of that if you're not in a gang. Direct one-on-one violence in the inner cities, etc. Not as likely if you're not in a gang. That accounts for a lot of the random violence in this country. Gang activity. In fact, when you see those numbers of, children dying because of firearms, that's mostly gang members, between 15 and 21 that are dying at each other's hands. Not because of the guns, but because of the fact that they're in rival gangs. Stabbing can kill you too. So that's one thing you could do to greatly reduce your chance of dying from a violent act. And that's don't be in a gang, especially if you're a kid. That will greatly reduce your risks. Number 2, don't be in a bad marriage. If you're in a bad marriage, get out of it. If you're not happy together, don't be together. Bad marriages account for a lot of the domestic violence issues in this country. And domestic violence is another really big risk for people. If you're living in a home where you're unhappy, well, then your chances of that other person you're living with enacting violence on you is a lot greater than if you're not in a bad marriage. So don't be in bad relationships. Either married or unmarried, don't be with someone who is not good to you. Don't be with someone you don't feel you can be good to because of your own personal issues with that person. Stay out of bad relationships. If you're in a relationship that you think is bad, but you still want to save it, get therapy. Stop demonizing things like mental health care and family therapy, group therapy, marriage therapy. Do it. It can help, and it greatly reduces your chance of hurting each other. And that's where a lot of violence comes from. When you see this, they murdered their wife and their kids. Very seldom does that turn out to be a happy family. Usually someone was cheating, the other person knew, their lives were horrible, blah, blah, blah. So 2 things you can do. Don't be in a gang and don't be in a bad relationship. Greatly reduces your chance of being harmed by a violent act. And the 3rd thing you can do is don't commit a crime. Do not be in the commission of a crime, and you don't have that great of a chance of someone using a gun on you or physical violence on you. That's a lot of times when it happens. Like recently, 79-year-old man shot his neighbor. He just got acquitted for that because that neighbor was on his property and then threatened him beforehand. So if that guy hadn't been committing that crime of being on the property, that wouldn't have happened to him. Now, a lot of people point to the gun and say, oh, it's because the old man had the gun. And we'll talk more about that later. I'll say some more about that in a video here in a few minutes. But if you're not committing a crime, your chances of being gunned down by the police, people pretend like the police are just randomly shooting people. Well, they are a lot of times where police make mistakes, go to the wrong house and shoot wrong people and things like that, or shoot people who don't deserve it. That's true. But a lot of times when they shoot people that don't deserve it, they were actually in the commission of a crime, just not one that warranted shooting them. So if you don't commit even a minor crime in the first place, chances of getting shot pretty slim. If you're not, performing a crime against someone else, like robbing a store or trespassing or robbing someone's home, breaking and entering, chances of getting shot or murdered or harmed in any way by violence really is reduced. So if you just do those three things, don't commit crimes, don't be in a bad relationship, and most importantly, don't be in a gang, your chances of being murdered by a gun especially, or harmed greatly by physical violence are reduced to almost nothing in this country. A statistical anomaly. It's usually, if you get hurt, it's somebody you know. It isn't random violence. And usually if it's somebody you know, it's either because of a unwanted sexual issue or a bad relationship, etc. It's not just people randomly hurting you. So do those things. Don't be in bad relationships. Don't join gangs. And don't commit crimes. And in this country, you'll be pretty safe. And just in case you are the victim of a crime, be armed. Being armed doesn't make you more or less likely to commit a crime. In fact, I like to think it makes a lot of people less likely because they think twice while they're carrying a gun. I know I do, and I'm not a very level-headed person. So just in case you are the victim of a violent crime, carry a gun. That'll greatly increase your chances of surviving it. But if you do the things we just talked about here, your chances of ever needing that gun will be very, very slim.